What's up, guys? Part-time Gamer Dad here, and today I'm going to talk about my 5 least favorite WrestleManias. So these are the WrestleManias that I just don't like. I think they're the worst of the bunch as we come upon WrestleMania 40. Let's get into it. Coming in at number 5 is a WrestleMania that I actually went to. It was my first WrestleMania I went to in person. That was WrestleMania 32 in my hometown of Arlington, Texas, so in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I was very excited, and honestly, that's the reason it doesn't rank lower for me or higher, depending on how you look at this. And part of the reason it is in my 5 worst WrestleManias is because I was there, because it was so disappointing, because the match card was already pretty rough to look at, and the matches I was excited for did not deliver. So Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose in that street fight, and all the storytelling of everything leading up to that street fight, with Dean Ambrose being gifted all of these weapons that he didn't use, and Brock and Dean not really working well together throughout the entirety of the match, and then for Brock to just win it off of an F5 on a pile of chairs. Hated it. Jericho beating AJ, which I know AJ was redeemed the next night by becoming the #1 contender for the WWE Championship, and he had some great matches and a great year after that. But losing to Jericho in your WrestleMania debut, just a few months after you debuted at the Royal Rumble, that was a weird call. And then that main event, guys, for those of you who were there with me, you know, like, we were booing the whole time. And if I could have left early, I would have, but tickets were expensive. I was on a vacation with my wife, who was a trooper and was just there for the experience. But that show, to this day, leaves a sour taste in my mouth, and I'm amazed that I convinced myself to go to another WrestleMania 38, which wasn't amazing, but light years better than 32 was. So I have it as my 5th worst WrestleMania of all time. Next up, at number 4 worst, I have WrestleMania 12. Now, here's the reason why. I think that WrestleMania 12 had a really great match, actually, in Undertaker versus Diesel. I think that match was actually great. I think that everything else, though, was not great. Obviously, Warrior squashing Hunter was ridiculous and just painful to watch. I'm sure back at the time it was great, but looking back, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I'm sorry, the initial Iron Man match between Brett and Shawn, it's just plotting. It's long. And it doesn't even have anything to do with the number of falls that take place. It just wasn't good. It wasn't engaging. It wasn't exciting. Technically, it was fine. And the closing, 60 seconds when he gets thrown to sharpshooter is exciting. There's a couple of moments of, oh, that's fun, but nothing that's terribly engaging, exciting. I think that match is like a 3-star match, not a 5-star match, not even close. And the highlight of that whole thing is that HBK won his first world title, that the boyhood dream came true, right? So I think that match is it's not a one-match show, and if it was, it's Taker versus Diesel, in my humble opinion. So for all those reasons and so many more, not the least of which was the most entertaining part of the show, the parking lot brawl between Piper and Goldust. But there were some things with that were not great. This goes down as my number 4 worst of all time. Okay, so these next 3, I really feel like you could put in any order, and I would respect it. Number 3 for me is 27. Now, I know that a lot of people would say this should be number 1. And I would agree, and I'm going to tell you why I don't think it should be number 1. And it's very simply Taker versus Triple H. That match, you want to talk about a one-match show? That match was what stood out as the saving grace of WrestleMania 27. But the things that were bad were so freaking bad that it drags it down to the number 3 worst WrestleMania of all time. You had the god-awful main event between John Cena and The Miz, where The Miz was the third wheel in his own title match because The Rock was involved with that. You had matches that just weren't engaging, like the 6-person tag team match was that Ziggler, Morrison, and Trish and Snooki were all involved in. And then you had the incredibly offensive Michael Cole versus Jerry Lawler that took up an insane amount of time that could have been given to other superstars. And so that match, if we're talking about the worst WrestleMania match of all time, it's that match. That match is the worst WrestleMania match of all time. And it would probably bring it down to the worst WrestleMania of all time if it had not been for Taker versus Triple H, which I think is an incredible match. One of the best Taker WrestleMania matches, like in top 5 or 6. But overall, like, that WrestleMania, quite frankly, sucks. I remember watching it live, and it was awful watching it from home. I couldn't wait for it to be over. So it's my number 3 worst WrestleMania of all time. All right, number 2. This one's hard to peg down. I'm going to say WrestleMania 9. The reason being, WrestleMania 9 is just a bad show. The best match on the whole card ends in a DQ, and it's the first match, and everything just goes downhill from there. It's very Hogan heavy, and the ending of it leaves a sour taste in the mouth of any fan. Even if you're a Hogan fan, it just doesn't make sense. Logically, it doesn't make sense. Yokozuna wins when Fuji throws, what was it, sand or salt or something? I think it was salt in Hart's eyes, and then Yoko pins him and wins the title, only for Hogan to come out and be like, we can't let that happen. And Bret's like, go, you go wrestle him for the title. And then obviously Hogan wins it like in 30 seconds. So that's awful. And then one of the other worst matches of all time, we were talking about like Cole and Lawler, up there with that is Giant Gonzalez versus The Undertaker. So that match was really bad, also ended on a DQ. And that was the thing, a lot of things about the matches was there was no resolution. Like, it just kind of held it off until the next opportunity for them to wrestle over these same issues. And the whole chloroform thing on Taker was just so weird and so dumb, in my opinion. That whole card was just hard to watch. It was really difficult to watch. And also, the whole setup was really weird as well. Like their location in Vegas, and not being in Vegas, but like where they were actually located. Just a lot of things about it that didn't work. And obviously the ending really just put it over the top. So that's my number 2 worst WrestleMania of all time, which means my number 1, listen guys, I'm not hating on it because it's old. I'm hating on it because it's crap. And that's WrestleMania 2. WrestleMania 2, like, I could have put WrestleMania 1 in the 5 worst. I could have put 4 in here. I could have put 15. I could have put 35 because it was so dang long. And WrestleMania 2 suffers from being boring and also offensive in that it was in 3 different locations at the same time. Well, technically in the same time, but they rolled through each location individually. And the matches they had just weren't good. They had a squash like match with the Jobber for Jake the Snake at WrestleMania 2. The main event was fine. King Kong Bundy versus Hulk Hogan in that steel cage match for the championship. But at best it was fine. And that's kind of where the show peaked, obviously. The boxing match between Piper and Mr. T was weird and obviously like more of a shoot than anything. I just don't think that show merits anybody watching it. If you've never seen it, don't ever watch it. And if you've ever watched it, don't rewatch it. It's not worth your time. You could go rewatch WrestleMania 32, which is way more worth your time than watching WrestleMania 2. So fast forward 30 years, watch that. Even though it's not a bad show, it's significantly better than this show. But I will say this. For how bad WrestleManias have been, there's at least always something for us to take away from each WrestleMania. And I don't see WrestleMania 40 being in the 5 worst. I can see it end up being in one of the 5 best ever. But even if everything goes sideways at WrestleMania 40, at least we know that it will not ever be as bad as putting one night show from 3 different locations and all these matches had no direction, except a couple, and even those ones weren't very good. So WrestleMania 2, we appreciate you for setting the very low bar that was surpassed by WrestleMania 3 and even WrestleMania 4, as much as that was kind of a boring night of a tournament wrestling, which I love a good tournament. And I love the ending with Savage winning the title, but still, come on. And then 5 was, that was a one-match show as well. But 2 was just so obscenely bad that it I don't think it can ever be topped or beaten to be the number 1 worst WrestleMania of all time. Let me know down in the comments below your thoughts on the worst WrestleManias of all time. Let me know which ones you agree with on my list, which ones you disagree with, and then make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed. We are so close to 1,900 subscribers. Would love to get there by WrestleMania Night 1. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.